All right, I thought I would do a quick video on where I installed my Stay and Play Duo braking system on my 2011 Jeep Grand Cherokee. This is not a video about how to install it. I simply want to show you where I chose to, for instance, drill a hole in the firewall and run my wires. So quick video on that. I will start with what they call I guess they call it the operating mechanism. Now remember, this is a 2011 Jeep Grand Cherokee with the 3.6 liter 6-cylinder engine. So I put it, looking from the top, I put the operating unit right there, okay, next to the radiator cap. You can see that I have it coming down at a slight angle. It rests just above the fan shroud, but if you look, I put in, where is it? There's a piece of black neoprene there, which just gives it a little bit of support because I did not put any bolts on the bottom. I only have my self-tapper screws on the top, one there and one there, going right into the metal across the top of the front of the engine. I made sure that this is low enough to where it doesn't interfere with the hood when I close the hood. I felt pretty good about it since here is the weather stripping for the hood, so I pretty much felt comfortable that it wasn't going to hit. And then after I mounted it, I double checked, closed the hood, and it's fine. Now on the wiring, so I ran wires. My power wire is hidden underneath the trim right along here. And there's only one power wire to the whole system. It's the brown wire coming off of the operating unit right there, the brown wire. Anyhow, it's right here. This is where your positive terminal is for the battery. And there's your fuse. So that's where the main power unit wire is run. Everything else runs this way. And here I've got my vacuum line. This is the, I guess you'd call it the actuator line, the air line that actuates the brake pedal. And my other wires coming this way, carefully run all the way, hidden, which I'm sure you guys will figure out how to do, but this is the most interesting part. So I brought it in here. Now this is my tap in to the brake booster line, the vacuum line for the brake booster. And this is just all in the instructions, but this is on the 2011. Here's where the brake booster line is. And I did my tap in right there, and my one-way valve is right here. And you see I've got it where the black is facing towards the engine, and the white, they call it green, but to me it's really white. The white side is facing towards the brake booster right here. And then this is the interesting part. Now, and I'll show it from the inside, but on the 2011, I could not find a pre-existing hole in the firewall, grommet or hole or anything. I could not find one. I looked and looked and looked, couldn't find it, so I had to drill my own. I thought about it a long time. I did not want it low where it could have any chance of getting moisture off of the road. And so after a lot of study, I figured out that I could go right here. So if you look at the section here where the brake booster is, and you get up close, and you look at the very back of the wall, that's the firewall. Now, actually, let me get a flashlight, because if I have a flashlight, I think it's gonna help. Okay, so going down again into that area. Now, if you notice, that's a factory line right there that goes through the firewall. And when you look up from the driver's position, you'll find this one. So find that pipe coming through, and that'll give you a reference. So you can see that I went above it and maybe an inch to a half inch to the inside, and drilled my hole. Why is it not focusing? Come on, focus. There we go. So basically the way I drilled the hole, and the way that I did this, I'll just show you the bit. It's the easiest way. You're not going to be able to do this unless you have a long bit. So here we go. I think this is about a foot long. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a 1/2 inch or 3/4 on it. Anyhow, it doesn't matter, but get a foot long bit, 3/4 to a 1/2 inch. And that way, if you look, when I have that bit up against the firewall, it reaches this far. Well, I had it on my drill, and that was something I could manage. So I drilled that hole, and I did not, you don't push very hard because you want to stop drilling the moment it goes through. Now, there's nothing on the other side to interfere with or damage, but still, I did not want my bit just diving into the area on the other side of the firewall. So you do light pressure. It doesn't take very long. In fact, I don't even think this is metal. Maybe it's metal, maybe it's thin aluminum, or maybe it's some type of composite, but it was actually quite easy for the hole to drill. So then I was able to sneak my wires through that hole, and you'll see I did put a rubber grommet around it just to prevent abrasiveness against the wires, causing them to short out over time or anything like that. So that's how I came through from the inside of the car. Now let's see if I can video and show you what I did, or at least show you this side of the hole. Can I show you this? There it is. Did I get it? Yeah, there it is. So you can see all my wires. And if you look right below it is the factory hose that I showed you. And right above it, now it's not, you can't see a clean hole because the material that covers the firewall is still there. So let me tell you how I fished my wires while that material was still there. So what I did was, I got a coat hanger, and I got it as straight as I could. And here it is. And I bent it to where I had a hook on the end, but I flattened it so that the hook was very, very flat. And then from this side, I fished it through until I got it through my hole and through the insulating material and could actually see it on the other side. Then I did 3 wires at a time, and I hooked my wires onto the coat hanger hook and gently, because it tends to get stuck, but very carefully fished it out till I got it through to this side. Now, that was to get the wires through. But to get this air hose through, right here, this black air hose, was much, much more difficult. And what I ended up doing was I brought my hanger from the opposite side. So from inside the car, I fished it till it was exposed out here. Then I forced the hose, not too far, but a little bit over the hanger. And you see where the hanger curls and expands? That enabled me to grab a hold of the hose. Where is it now? Let's see here. I'll show you a piece. So here you can see a scrap piece of the hose. And I pushed it over like this to where it was on tight enough to where it had a little bit of grab. Okay, so it's like this coming out of the firewall. Then I went back into the car and worked this hanger back through very carefully so that the hose didn't get pulled off the hanger. It took a few minutes, and then eventually I got it through. So I'm not 100% done with the installation at this point. I've still got to mount This, they call it the controller, and it is going to go right here. Now, there's not a lot of good places to put this thing. And when I mount it here, it's going to be really close to the emergency brake. There's not much I could do about that. So I just, after looking all over the car, because this has to be oriented this way. Wherever you put it, it has to be with the switch to the back of the car. So you can't put it like this, and you can't put it like that sideways. It must go level like this. So I couldn't just randomly say, oh hell, let's put it over here, because that would be on the opposite side, and it wouldn't work. So if you're gonna, the only thing you can do is either put it on the driver's side or put it in the same general position on the passenger side. And I didn't want it on the passenger side, so that's that. So I'm gonna figure out a way to get it here as with as much distance as possible from the brake pedal as I can. So I made sure that I took the wires from the controller and fed them up through the dash assembly here and got them into the area that I knew that I would want them in. So if you peek, here are my wires. Okay, there you can see them. There's my wires coming up from the floor. That's from the controller. And there they go through a hole right into the area next to the firewall. And here's my final installation. Now, I've practiced putting my brake on and off, and it is possible to avoid jamming onto this with your foot. It works. It's not that hard, actually. So I will have to be careful every time I put on the parking brake. I don't want to be kicking this. They call it the G-force controller. But there's plenty of room for the brake to function. And the way I did this was the wires go behind this panel and sneak out of the bottom and come up to the box. So I did cut like a wire channel in the cover. Let's see how visible it is. There, you can see it right there. The channel that I cut in the plastic to bring the wires through to the box. You can see it just fine right there. Here you can see the installation of the actuator mechanism. And what I had to do here, it's an option. They give you an option in terms of whether you screw. Let me explain. You can either use just the center screw and bracket all by itself, or you can use that wider bracket using 3 screws. I chose to use the wider bracket because if you look, it's not a flush mount, because there are some aspects to the firewall here that got in the way and prevented a flush mount. So you can, if you look closely, you'll see what I'm talking about. So anyhow, that's what I did. And you do have to cut out all the floorboard stuff. And it's very hard to decide where to put this thing unless you just cut out a large piece of the floorboard material. So that's unfortunately what I had to do. I hate destroying a car, but hey, this is a work car anyhow, so whatever, I did it. So there's how I mounted the cable for the actuator. Between installing this system and running the wires, and I don't work like lightning fast. I have other things, other responsibilities, but I spent 3 days on this thing. So it's not for the faint of heart. It is a lot of work. And if you're my age, 57, and you're crawling around looking up under the dash of cars, it's not fun. It was a pain in the ass. But anyhow, that's about it. I just thought I would point out mainly where I drilled a hole through the firewall and how I fished my wires through it. Anyhow, I hope this is helpful to people. Talk to you guys later.